All right, well, I'm going to get this started, folks. Good afternoon, everybody. Good morning to some. My name is Zach Hubeck. I'm the Executive VP of Marketing for Wave and ISP Supplies. We've got a great webinar session lined up today for you folks with TP-Link. We're going to do double duty here. So first and foremost, we have Jeff Barney, who is the president of TP-Link. Jeff, welcome. How are you today?
Fantastic. Thank you for having me.
You're absolutely welcome. Folks, Jeff, I'm going to have a quick fireside chat with Jeff in regard to, there was an article published in December of last year from the Wall Street Journal in regard to security as it relates to China and national security with TP-Link's products. I know a lot of folks have been clamoring and having a lot of questions, so we wanted to address that and hear that directly from Jeff. So he's going to help us out with that. And as soon as we conclude that fireside chat, we're going to turn it over to Sean Montgomery. Sean, good afternoon, sir. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Beautiful. Sean is the Director of Sales and Systems Engineering for TP-Link, and they've got some exciting new features coming out on their Aginet solution. So TP-Link's TAUC solution, we're going to talk about that, the TP-Link Aginet Unified Cloud, TAUC. Sean's going to walk us through some brand new features. We at ISP Supplies and Jonathan Nicholson really polled our customer audience with a SurveyMonkey survey and said, what do you want to hear from TP-Link? And all of this session was built based around your guys' feedback, and this is why we're meeting today. So welcome one and all. As a courtesy to our speakers, folks, we do have a lot of folks in attendance, so we have muted your lines. This isn't going to be an unmute and ask a question. We're going to lob questions at Jeff here. If you do have questions for either Jeff or Sean, please do put those in the chat or the Q&A, and then we'll either address those as they come and keep this session moving. So why don't we start with Jeff here, folks? So Jeff, again, good afternoon to folks. Jeff is the president of TP-Link. Jeff, really, first questions that we got from folks, pretty juicy first one right out of the gate here. So what is the political future of TP-Link with these national security concerns? Are there any concerns? And please don't sugarcoat it.
Wow, Zach, yeah, you give me a fastball right out of the gate.
You're welcome.
Well, let's get to it. I mean, this is what everybody wants to hear. I'm happy to address this issue. Of course, we're not politicians here at TP-Link, so it's hard for us to speak about what's in the mind of politicians. But I think as Americans, we all know the tensions between China and the United States. And frankly, TP-Link, we share some of the concerns about cybersecurity and the security of devices and routers. And we're participating in many of the security, whether it's security by design with CISA, whether it's the cyber trust mark from the FCC. We're involved with the U.S. government about how we can be a part of the solution, since we are a main player in this space. So the question about cybersecurity is the right one to ask, and there are a lot of bad actors out there. And we, as an industry leader, need to be a part of the solution. I will say this, that we're not concerned about our business. We've been in the United States for 16 years. We've cooperated with the U.S. government and the Department of Commerce over those years. We've exchanged information with them. Lately, because of the political environment, we've been requested to provide some more information. We've been doing that. We have absolutely no concern over this. We have been operating in the U.S. and in this space for a very long time. We think it's a good thing that the U.S. government is looking into these issues, and we welcome any of their questioning by any of the departments in the U.S. government, as we believe that our security business model, are relocating our company in the U.S. over the last couple of years and being domiciled here, are working with third-party cyber security experts like Finite State. These are all actions we're taking on behalf of our customers. And so we welcome any investigation or transparency into those stuff. We feel we have nothing to hide. And in fact, we would love if all of our competitors opened up their supply chains and their security protocols, and that everyone could understand exactly what every company in this space is doing security-wise. So What is the political future? Who knows what the political future is, but we don't have any concerns about our business in the U.S. We intend and plan to be around for many years.
All right. Now, you did mention finite state cybersecurity. So you've hired them on as an independent consultant to really kind of go through and do an audit, and you've furnished a letter to the WISP and ISP community previously. Jeff, are you comfortable sharing that out to everybody as a follow through on this webinar?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, we engaged finite state. It's been more than a year. It was before any of this press coverage. We engaged them as a way to harden our security protocols and our product security. We had them doing penetration testing. They have a product that's a software bill of materials secure product. We started to use that and implement that. They reviewed our development process. They reviewed our customer data security, our source code. Many of the aspects of security we had them looking into. And, Sean knows this. I've actually had the executives at Finite State talk to a few key customers in the U.S. to directly share their findings and their views, their ongoing work with us. And they're strong advocates of our security. And Finite State has been around for a long time. They actually have worked. They've actually worked for the USG in the past, investigating various groups on behalf of the U.S. government. So, I would be more than willing to send that communication out. We design, manufacture, and engineer our own products. We own our supply chain. This is a very unique position in the marketplace. And so, every product is, since 2018, all of our products have been imported from Vietnam for the United States. We have our own factory in Vietnam with our own people. We've moved our R&D substantially to the United States. We're building out a large footprint here. Of course, we have R&D in Asia, like every other company, but it's our own employees in our own factories that are managed by our US executives here. And so unlike some of our competitors and I history in my past where there's a heavy use of Taiwanese or Chinese ODMs. It's a very efficient model. But in terms of controlling the security of a third-party company in that way that has so much control over your product and how it's built and how it's developed, we feel that our own supply chain, where we have our own people, is a much better way to ensure the security and the safety of our devices. And so we see that as a competitive advantage, and we see that our work with Finite State and the transparency that we have in our supply chain is one that we're trying to stake as a leadership position to try to perhaps force others to be more transparent in their supply chains as well.
Beautiful. Jeff, that's admirable. Open door policy, transparency with customers, a lot of data out there, a lot of this article that came out in December implied there might be a potential ban for TP-Link because of your solutions. I think, how would you answer that of the potential of that? I think I already know the answer, but
yeah, that's a fair question, Zach. I get asked that a lot. Of course, we have a large business here in the U.S. We have a fairly substantial consumer business as well. Many of you know us as consumers yourself, walking into an Amazon or buying from an Amazon or Walmart or Best Buy, Costco, and those partners have been with us, still with us. They understand our position here. Of course, over the years, we've had to participate in many, many. They have their own security groups in these big companies. They have their own public affairs, and we've interacted with them in terms of our partnership. And could companies be banned? I suppose, but I think that the banning aspect is really something that gets people to click and to read and to it makes it exciting to go find out about a ban. Just saying perhaps that the U.S. government is looking at the detailed security protocols of a company doesn't sound as exciting as potential ban. So
Sure.
We don't have a concern about it because frankly, we own our supply chain. We know what's in our supply chain. We're a U.S. headquartered company and we're managing that from the U.S. Again, we understand the concern. We share the concern. We feel that we have been unfairly labeled in this, mostly due to competitive reasons. Where perhaps we've made too much of an impact over the last 5 years and brought a lot of attention to ourselves from competitors. And because of our Chinese founding, we are a Chinese founded company that evolved and moved and eventually ended up here re-domiciling the company in the US. People have questions about that. People have questions about our history, and we're open and honest to answer all that and provide documents. And so we don't feel any concern about a ban or any interruption in our business. And in fact, we feel that this could, really put a lot of these concerns and the history behind us by having folks look into our business.
Beautiful. Jeff, thanks so much. One last question for you, sir, before we jump over to Sean here. So, what are your plans for future development and availability of the Deco and Aginet product lines in the U.S.?
Yeah, I know. I know Sean's going to cover this in more detail, but this is what we do. We develop our own products. We spend our resources on building new and better products. So we have big plans to continue to push, of course, Deco and Aginet in the United States. We have a strong investment plan over the next 5 years. We're also looking at what things we can do, news to come. Don't want to break too much news on here with you, Zach, but, we're looking at what things we can do in the U.S., what investments we can make here from a manufacturing standpoint, from an R&D standpoint. Those are all things that are in our midterm strategic plan. And certainly the continued development of Aginet and building out the feature set is definitely a priority for us.
Awesome. Very cool. Well, Jeff, thank you so much, folks. We've got some Q&A questions coming in. I've read a couple of them here. Looks like they're appropriate for Sean here. So I can't wait for Sean to get to his content here.
Yeah.
Funny
Zach, if there's any you see that you want to jump at me, I'll leave that to you. I'm happy to try to answer if there's something you think will help the group out there. Because, my goal here is to be transparent, to let you know where we're at and to provide some confidence in the company and in what we're doing.
That sounds great. Why don't I lob one of these questions at you? Where are your software and firmware developers located, Jeff?
Good question. They're mixed. We have some here in California and Irvine, where our headquarters is. We do have some in China as well. Of course, that is something that many companies, tech companies deal with, is where to best do R&D. And so we do have them in multiple places. Our goal is to build out a rather large software and firmware group here that's already started and well on its way. And we're also looking at building out an additional R&D center outside of Southern California in another state as well. And so we have a lot of plans in terms of R&D in the U.S. But as of today, we have them in both Asia and in the United States.
Got it. Very good. Another question here. Are there plans for better community forum and support ticketing system for service provider customers?
Boy, that sounds, Sean, did you submit that? Yeah, we're well aware we need to improve there, and those are in our plans. The customer is most important to us, and whenever we have a chance to actually talk directly with customers and take care of their needs, we need to do it in forums. It's a great way to do that in a ticketing system, and so that's something's a priority that I'm sure Sean could talk about in more detail. And I know this is an important item on Sean's list as well.
Nice. Yeah, we've got another question here, but I think Sean can address this one. If we have problems with tech support, whom can we reach out to?
That's me.
All right.
So, yeah, reach out to me or your account manager. I mean, anyone in the TP-Link, it'll come back to mine.
All right. Very cool. Well, Jeff, we don't have any other questions in the Q&A or the chat here. What I'd like to do is transition over to Sean. Are there any closing thoughts you had, Jeff, or anything else we didn't discuss that you'd like to?
Yeah, no, I just want to say in closing, we really value our partners here, and I appreciate Zach, you guys, the team, giving us this opportunity to speak. And I want you to know that we every single day we're thinking about how we can improve our security and make ourselves more transparent in this environment. We're not unawares of the political environment that we find ourselves in, and it's up to us to solve that for our partners, and we're working on that. And we always want to be as transparent as possible. So if there are, that's why we're putting out this CISA third-party data. There's lots of third-party data that shows our security. In fact, a lot of our partners test our products and have tested them in their labs and recognize the security protocols that we have. And so we just want to try to get the latest information out to folks and let them understand that we take this seriously, and we're working every day to try to continue to make improvements to not only the transparency, but continue to make improvements to the security of our products.
All right. Very good. Well, Jeff, we're starting to get some thumbs up here, some greats, some thanks, even people being bullish about your future and saying, hey, will you guys ever go public? I don't know.
Yeah.
If you want to address that one, but you've convinced them. No,
I don't know. I mean,
get in that initial public offering, my man.
Yeah. Being public makes it difficult to do things quickly for customers sometimes. We don't have the burden of the public quarterly sprint. So, we are able to use our resources to invest in the future and to spend more on building better products for our customers. And so, who knows what the future holds, but we would evaluate that within the grid of would being a public company add value to our customers or not, and that was probably the way that we would approach that.
All right, awesome.
All right,
well, thank you, Jeff, so much. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. All right, team. Well, let's go double duty here. We're going to turn it over to Sean. Folks, again, to refresh everybody's memory, Sean is the Director of Sales and Systems Engineering. Technical support. We're going to flash his cell phone number right at the very end in big, bold lettering. So you can call him at 3 a.m. if you need anything. Right, Sean?
It's on the Facebook page, I am sure.
All right. So Sean's going to walk us through new developments with Aginet. A lot of folks came back on the SurveyMonkey survey and had asked about different features or firmware upgrades or a variety of things that are going on. Sean's going to test drive this stuff with us and give us some exciting updates. I do see a lot of questions coming in that are more technical in nature in our chat. Folks, we will get to these questions, or it might even be covered within Sean's slideware. So we're paying close attention to that. Please do keep the questions coming. And without further ado, I'll pass it over to Sean Montgomery. Floor is yours, sir.
All right. Well, thank you. And thanks everyone for attending. What I want to do is just spend about 10 minutes and kind of go over the baseline of what Aginet and TAUC is. And then I'm going to talk about a few new features that we're adding or just added kind of in beta. And then talk about and actually just answer the questions that were in the SurveyMonkey survey. So some of you guys are going to know this, seen this presentation before, but I do want to set a baseline to what Aginet is. So Aginet, at the end of the day, is a solution. So it is both hardware and software, consists of a cloud aspect, an app, and the hardware itself. And kind of the design aspects of this is, the race to 10 gig and beyond. So if you look at our products, we're really trying to get to that 10 gig sweet spot and, in the price point. And then WAN equals LAN. So, there's no reason to have a 5 gig or a 2.5 gig port on the LAN side or WAN side if it's not on a LAN, right? So if you're offering a 2 gig service to your customer, they really need to be able to see that 2 gig service inside their home. So WAN equals LAN is a very important aspect to our design. And then, of course, Wi-Fi 7 and 6E. Wi-Fi 7 is out. It is actually, I've been doing this since, I'm not going to date myself, but since the late 90s when Wi-Fi was invented. And Wi-Fi 7 was a game changer. With MLO and the speeds that we're now seeing, it is pretty amazing to, run a speed test and get 1.8 gig over Wi-Fi. It is astounding. So, almost Wi-Fi is not the bottleneck anymore. A lot of these gigabit routers become the bottleneck, which is kind of just impressive. And then the other design aspect is really standards-based, right? Everything we do is standards, right? So our management is TR69 369 from the Broadband Forum. Our Wi-Fi is the Wi-Fi Easy Mesh standard. So again, here, the reason why we wanted it to be standards is because, the ecosystem. So we might not be the gateway, but we can be your access point. We might not be your management, but you can use our product in your managed service today. So it really is all about us just fitting into your current ecosystem with our product. So that's kind of the design aspect. Now I'm going to talk about kind of the back end TAUC, or actually the product, sorry. So the products itself, we have a wide range of products. And I think if you look at TP-Link and you look across all the different business units, our strength is our portfolio. You know, the size of our portfolio, we have the HC220, which is, you know, a very low cost router, right? If you have customers that are, you know, 25 meg, 100 meg or less, there's no reason to burden that network with Wi-Fi 7, right? So HC220 is a great product. The HX510 is the middle of the road and is actually our #1 seller. So the HX510 is our #1 seller. The HC220 is #2. And then giving you a PoE option, right? So the idea with new builds, if you have structured wiring, PoE is a great, great product. And then having outdoor, because if anyone knows me, I am outside. I'm always outside. I very rarely like to be inside. So I want to be out on my back patio or by the pool or anywhere I can be outside. And the 510 outdoor does that for you. And then if you kind of move up the food chain a little bit, we have the EX920, which is Wi-Fi 6E and 2.5 gig. And then we have the 716 Pro. 716 Pro was built. It does not conform to the WAN equals LAN, but it gives you a lower cost option for an extender in a tri-band network. So that was the idea to introduce the 716 Pro, is if you were deploying an EX920, you could deploy the 716 Pro as a lower cost extender or mesh unit. And then Wi-Fi 7. So we have the HB 610, 710, and 810. All three of these are out today. The 810 is your Cadillac. That is a tri-band 4x4, all 10 gig. Also has an SFP plus port. Your HB 710 then comes down as just two 10 gig ports, and then the 610 is your 2.5 gig. You're going to see us kind of move in the middle here with the HB 615. That's going to be a 5 gig Wi-Fi 7 device. And then the HB 210 Pro, we will start having units in April. That is a entry-level Wi-Fi 7 device, which I'm very excited about. So it has 2.5 gig ports, but it's an entry-level Wi-Fi 7. And then if you haven't talked to me in a while or come by our booth, we are doing OLTs. We're in the PON world. So we have a wide range of OLTs that are out today. The XGS PON, it will be released very soon, or actually they're out now. The 7500-08 and the 7501-08. The 7501 will take the place of the 7500. And the difference between the two is the 7500 had two 40 gig QSFPs, where the 7501 is 100 gig. So we listen to our customers. You're going to hear me say that a lot. We listen. I have some of my salespeople laugh at me, but we are good listeners. We do listen. For some of you on the call, it does take us a little while to implement. I will admit that, but we do listen to what you say, and we try to get it into the platform and into the system. And then the 16 port is coming out very soon. We will also have a couple of chassis-based units. So these are going to come out late Q2, early Q3. I just wanted to put them here for your information. So these are more of your CO units. You know, the other units could be deployed out in the field in an MDU or into a business or into just a small cabinet. But then we have these units as well. And then what goes with those is definitely the ONTs or ONUs. So we're going to have a wide range of ONUs that are coming out. The XGZ030 is out today. I am very intrigued and ready to see the outdoor unit on the far right. So that should be coming out by the end of the year. And then we do have an ONT on a stick that you can put into our HB810 or other devices. And then what I'm most excited about is the integrated units. So these are all integrated with XGS PON. The XGB835V, that is basically the HB810 equivalent. It's a tri-band 4x4. It has dual 10 gigs, so you can use it as a 10 gig router, or you can use the optical interface. So you can do one or the other. The XGB810 does not give you that option, but the 835 does. And then the XGB 430V Pro is a 10 gig, but it is a dual band, not a tri-band Wi-Fi 7 device, trying to give you a better cost point there as well. Also, you'll notice that these are in different form factors. Again, we listen, right? I've had many customers that tell me, I love your product, but it does not fit in a media cabinet. These fit in the media cabinet. So that was the whole plan. They also come with a wall bracket, so you're able to easily mount these on the wall or inside that media cabinet. So I'm very excited about these. These will be sampling very, very soon. The XGB 835s, I believe, are on their way over, and the XGB 430s will be over in April. And then to kind of round out the software is the app. I know, I do get feedback on the app. We do make changes. Hopefully you see those changes as we do updates, but please keep those coming. If you have things you want to see, just reach out to myself or Joe or Richard on my team and get those in, and we will collect them. I still have almost 90 items on my wish list for this platform to adopt. So can't wait for that to happen. So now let's talk about TAUC in the back end. So the back end, really, at the end of the day, it's just a simple web-based portal with an easy searchable database. And I think this is the key, full management capability once you get there. Once you find that network. So the idea for your CSRs is to find that network quickly, be able to manage what you need, and move on to your next call or your next task. And then the multiple installation options. So the idea is there's a pro install, customer and self-install, and then the zero touch. I think zero touch is a great thing. We've just added the idea of asset list, or at least in the last 6 or 9 months. And all you have to do is actually put the product in the asset list. If it's in the asset list, it will automatically come online. If you have DHCP enabled, it will just come online in its default state and just nothing is needed. It will actually come online with the serial number and the date as the network name. So we have a lot of customers that are using that now and are enjoying that new feature. And then going back to, again, everything is standards based. Broadband forum, the open APIs. The one thing that is not standards based is our support for our legacy decos. So the Deco X50 is not going away anytime soon. I can't see it. It's a great product. People love it. But for those on the call, the differences between the two is Deco was a retail product that we put ISP management on. The Aginet product was developed for the ISP from the start. So the things that are missing from Deco were included in Aginet, like full web UI, user permissions, VLANs, multiple SSIDs. So things that you asked for in Deco, but since it was a retail line and we keep retail simple, we decided to do Aginet and really focus on the ISP. Talk about real-time troubleshooting. It's almost real-time, but we have the ability to, if you're working with a customer, we automatically can pull that network every 60 seconds so you can see if you're making changes, you're making are doing any good. The task function has greatly improved over the last couple of years, I would say. So it has become really useful, and I will talk about that a little bit more. And then open API integration. And I'll touch on that also here shortly. Oops. And then we have 2 different subscription services. Majority of your customers could be managed by a basic mesh network license. So everything on the bottom in that gray is your basic mesh network license. And that checks all the boxes, right? I can do AP surveys, I can change, passwords, I can do anything to the device really that I need to do from a management perspective. What managed Wi-Fi adds is the ability, we start to pull the network every 15 minutes of every hour of every day, and then we hold that data for 7 or 14 days, depending on your license, and then we can do analysis at that point. So, if airtime utilization is over 80%, send me an alert. More than 30 devices connected to one AP, send me an alert. We're starting to add alarm and optimization. So if we see that airtime utilization is at 80%, what can we do on the back end or suggest for you to do on the back end to alleviate that alarm? So that is really coming into fruition. The container management. So the idea is we'll have a Matter IoT container coming out. We probably will have an F-Secure container coming out, and other containers, maybe management containers that you'll be able to deploy quickly to your customers. So the managed Wi-Fi service is going to have, again, everything in basic, but then you get to do some more analytics on the top end, and we're going to have some more features or functions in the managed Wi-Fi service, which I'll talk about here in a second. And then here's the pricing. We, as Jeff said before, we are transparent. We are a hardware manufacturer. We own our supply chain. But at the end of the day, we can't lose money on software. So our friends at AWS host this for us. We've got to pay them. And so that is why we charge what we charge. So if you look at the pricing, it's based on the interaction of the CPE to the cloud, and that's how we do our pricing. For those that have been around with us for a while, and I thank you, you know that we have actually lowered pricing over the years, because as our volumes get higher, in conjunction even with retail, right, with our IoT devices, as we become a bigger customer of AWS, our prices go down, and then we help, we lower our prices to you. So again, we are a hardware manufacturer. Our goal is to sell more hardware. We just cannot lose money on the software. So this software the price is based on our cost to AWS and the engineers that support it. All right, so for what some of you guys have been waiting for, some updates, and then answer your questions, and we'll just open it up to Q&A after that. But for those that have logged in the last, I think this update went out on the 13th, you now have dark mode. I don't know how many customers have asked me for dark mode. I've asked for dark mode. My eyes are old. I really enjoy dark mode much better. So this was implemented. I know it did take us a little while, but we were working on other features. This was always a nice to have, but it is now there. So dark mode is now supported. So hopefully that will help your eyes in the NOC. The other thing that was quite vocal about was the auto logout timer. So we've added this in the latest release. You now can set your auto logout timer from 15 minutes to 2 hours to 120 minutes. Now there's a reason why we have this, right? It is a security concern. If you leave your computer and you leave it open to a TAUC portal and it never logs you out, someone can walk up and maybe do something malicious. So this really is a security concern. So again, the default is 15 minutes, but if you want to change it, you now have the ability to do that inside the portal. And it's in the settings page at the very bottom of the general settings. And if you do not see it, go look at the user permissions and make sure you have permissions to see session security. The next piece that's coming out very soon, I'm very excited about, is OLT management inside of TAUC. So you're going to be able to see topology from the OLT to the ONU to the network that is connected to it, let's say an HX510, and have all the information that you need in that flow. So you're going to be able to see your light levels, transmit, receive. You're going to be able to see everything in that flow, in that topology. And then also we're going to be doing, alarms and events, and everything else will also be funneled into TAUC. This will not be a pure management. Let's say you're still going to need to set the OLT up. This is for OLT, not viewing, but really provisioning. So if you want to say move a customer from, a 1 gig service to a 5 gig service, you're going to be able to assign that profile and move them up. Or if you're having issues with that customer, you're going to be able to quickly see light levels and what the ONU is seeing and the OLT is seeing. So I'm very excited about this. This is just starting to go into beta. I just got access to it. So we're starting to play and write documentation, and you should see this out this summer. The other feature that is coming very soon, and we'll be looking for beta customers here soon, is what we're calling MDU management. So at a high level, what this is breaking up TAUC into separate entities. So the idea is the ISP or the MSP owns the CPE, owns the network. Then the MDU owner or partner, that might be a management company, that might be an individual property, but the MDU partner can manage multiple properties. And then you have a site manager who can manage one site, right? So that's your person in the office at that MDU who's doing the, applications and doing the move in, move out process. And then the tenants get the Aginet app. So if you kind of break that out a little bit, the partner, again, the MSP can manage everything. The MDU partner can manage his properties, and then the site manager manages their sites. And the MDU, in the middle there, the MDU portal, they have limited access. So they can see SSIDs, they can change passwords, they can see, RF levels. And the thing that we're adding to this, which I know some of you guys will like, is a ticketing system in the MDU side. So a site manager can create a ticket that gets escalated to the partner, and then the partner can escalate that ticket to the actual ISP. So all internal to the platform itself, there will be a ticketing system for the MDU side. So it is not a different portal, but a different portal. So if I am the site manager or an MDU partner, I'm going to have my own login, and then I'm going to have a subset of what you see as the ISP. So they're going to have the ability to create their buildings, put units per floor, have their floors. And in the second phase of this, we're going to do RF coordination. So if you have a site, all tightly connected, we are going to be able to do all the RF for you, change channels, change power levels, and give your customers the best optimal Wi-Fi that we can. So that's phase 2. Phase 1 right now is just the management of those devices. One of the neat features that is added is the idea of setting defaults, which can actually be done in the app. So if you think about it, if a tenant moves in, there will be a set of defaults that customer can log into, and then they can change the SSID or password if they feel like it, or they can have the site manager do that for them. But then when that customer moves out, all the site manager has to do is hit the move out button, and it resets that device back to the defaults that you set when you did the initial install. Now I'll answer your questions. So the first one is if will we be getting TP-Link Aginet products with voice? So the integrated ONTs will all have voice ports. Well, not the single unit. Some of those do and some of those don't, but all the gateways will have voice ports. So you will see that coming from us very, very soon. Another one, TAUC API has been converted to paid only. We listened, it's back, it's free. So the TPS of 1, so transactions per second shared as 1, is back to $0. So what we did add is a TPS of 1, so again, transaction per second of 1 with API monitoring, and that is going to be $720 a year, but you have the API monitoring so you can see what your actual performance and latency is of your transactions. We actually lowered the prices here again. I think in the last couple of months, these prices are now lower than they were before. So again, we listen, we got it back, got your free service back. So hopefully that's good for everybody. Another one, easier mass updates for Aginet and Deco devices. The task functionality has been greatly improved over the last 12 months. One of the things that we did that we really had to push for was to use TP-Link's servers for your file hosting. So before, if you wanted to do an upgrade, you had to download the file from us or get it from me, host it on your own server, set up your own URL, and do the upgrades. Now you can just right-click on that firmware, get our URL, put that URL in the task, and now you will do the firmware upgrades using our servers, excuse me, instead of your own. Also, we've added a lot of features. You know, how many units do you want to do a day? Do you want us to skip weekends? Do you want us to skip holidays? We actually kind of give you a model. So say you have 10,000 units, how many can we do in that day or in your time period that you've set this policy for? And then the new idea of the subtask 2 is upgrading newly deployed devices. So do you want to deploy those when they immediately come online, or do you want to deploy those later at night during your maintenance window? So there, you know, again, we've really updated the task engine for upgrades. Also, one of the things that we added was we have those 3 customized fields inside of the customer information piece. And I have a lot of customers that use those as upgrade groups. So we have that as a customized field that you can say, you know, if upgrade group 1, upgrade, right? So the whole crawl, walk, run kind of mentality. So you don't have that crowd strike, oops. So this way you can upgrade, you know, 20, 50 friendlies, wait a week, and then update, and then, you know, go to the full run and update the rest of your field. Continue on the questions. Is TP-Link investigating a local host version of TAUC? So the answer is yes, but we do not have I guess, support model is yet to be defined. So how do we do that? If you're hosting our software, what kind of, you know, management or maintenance do we need to have to make sure that it is still a great experience for you? You know, and that's what we're working on now. So hopefully by the end of this year, we'll have all that nailed out. And in 2026, you can be able to self-host your own TAUC instance. Another question, support for C20. So this is kind of a funny thing, or at least internally to me, we are developing a module to support third party. So third party is even ourselves at this point. And the reason for that is Aginet is TR369 based. The C20 is TR69 based. So we are developing a module so we can support the C20, but other third-party devices that you might already have in the network that are not yet TR369. So we're working on that today. I expect that out by Q3, maybe Q4 of this year. We've got a couple of customers that have given us devices that they want to be supported in those, and it's kind of a case-by-case basis. So if you have a product you want to support, we just ask that you submit it to us. We will do the engineering and get that unit supported. LTE router. So we do have LTE routers in other markets. We do not have them in the US, but we are releasing a 5G router, the M8550, and it is kind of more of a hotspot, but it does have an Ethernet port. So it could be used as a router. It is not in the Aginet family. I am looking to hopefully bring a 5G router over to the Aginet family. But that's going to be 2026, maybe 2027. But we are looking into that. But we have the expertise because we've done it in other regions. The U.S. is the barrier to entry is quite high in the U.S. For LTE and 5G, and that's what we're working on now. The next question, ability to pull up the TAUC portal from an app instead of forcing Aginet devices to be added to a subscriber. I don't know if I fully understand this question, but you can now with the asset list, import everything in the asset list, just take the device to your customer, plug it in, it will come online with the defaults that are on the bottom of the unit. And it will come online as in the network list as a serial number -date. So I don't know what the question was. And for those, we have not made TAUC app friendly. It's just because it's so complex of all the features and screens that we have. That is a goal, but right now it's too cumbersome of a effort based on what we have on our plate today. We rather get features and functionality out first, and then we'll get it to be app friendly very, very soon thereafter. Questions continued. So best practices, I saw that a couple of times. Please just reach out to anyone on the TP-Link team. We have documents that we have created best practices for onboarding, best practices for doing upgrades. I think we have a speed test best practices. So we do have these documents. Just please reach out to us. And then another one was automatic reboots. This will be added to the alarm and optimization. So you're going to be able to set, I would like to reboot every 30 days, every 45 days. You kind of pick the time period. So that's coming here very soon. Now, the one thing to mention is that alarm and optimization is going to be part of the managed Wi-Fi service. So you'd have to have the managed Wi-Fi license. And then the other last one, I think this one is future focus. You heard Jeff say this. We're not changing any plans. There's no reason why government inquiry is going to change what we're doing. We are going to continue to listen to you and the community to enhance the product. That is our goal. And again, I thank those that have been on the platform for a long time. I hope you see the growth. To me, I've been doing this for 25 plus years. It is amazing how far we have come in the last 4 to 5 years of Aginet and TAUC, and how many features. I welcome y'all to go to TAUC, go to the About, and pull down the versions and the release notes and see what we've been doing in the background. Now, I will admit, you're going to see some features that are not yet supported on the CPE side, but they're supported on the back end. So once we do an update on the firmware for the actual device, you're gonna get those features. And I think that is all I have. So yeah, I open it up now, Zach, to you for questions. And I say, if you don't want to ask questions here, come find us personally at WISPA. We'll be there next week.
Sean, I don't think we're going to have any problem about questions, sir. By my observation, we've got about 78 minutes worth of questions that we have to cram into 13 here. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to pass it over to my man, Jonathan Nicholson. He'll hit you with some of these questions. Folks, we have so many here. If we do not get to these, what we'll do is we'll lob them in a summary over to Sean. He'll answer them, and then we'll circulate those back to you guys as a follow-up to our webinar here. So Jonathan, why don't you start firing away at Sean, and let's see if we can do some speed dating here, my man.
Sounds good. And thank you, Sean, for covering all the questions in the survey, and a lot of the questions that came in through the chat as well, you covered in the presentation. Here's a couple that we can touch on here. What's the status on doing remote tests or remote speed tests individually on HC220s?
So the GSST speed test. So I guess I need a little clarification, but we have the GSST speed test module, which is global schedule speed test. That is a paid for service. You can do a little bit of testing for free. It gives you 1,000 tests, but I believe if you do the math, it's 0.0012, if I remember correctly, per test. But you can always do an individual speed test if you set up your own TR-143 server today. TR-471 actually is supported in the back end, and as I mentioned before, I need devices that support that. So those who don't know, TR-471 is the Broadband Forum's UDB test to be more like Sam knows, to give you better throughput results on devices that are CPU restricted. Is the best way to say that. So you should be able to see line rate now on devices that you could not see before. But you can always run individual speed tests on any device that you log into today from an HC220 perspective.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Another question here. Can the ONT on a stick be used in the SFP Plus port of your routers? And is there an outdoor ONT unit? So
the outdoor ONT unit will be coming out by the end of the year. And yes, the SFP on a stick can be used in our HB810. Should be able to use in other products as well, but we know we test on the HB810 and we've tested in our switches as well.
Fantastic. Thank you. Another question here about pricing on the management software. Is the price for the device per year or per home network per year or a lifetime charge? A little more explanation on that.
Yes, so it is per network per year. So a network could have 1 device or 5 devices, and it is that one price per year. And that license does not get the timer does not start on that license until it is actually assigned to a network. So you could go out and buy 100 licenses, and let's say that 100th license doesn't get applied for, 30, 50, 60 days. That license timer does not start until you apply it. We also allow you to bind and unbind a license up to 10 times in that year. So that is if you have churn or maybe equipment failure or anything like that, you can move those licenses around up to 10 times in a year.
Fantastic. Thank you, Sean. Question on the meshing here. Also, how many mesh nodes are the Aginet or Deco systems limited to?
Deco is 10, Aginet is 7. And we put those limits in place. There's not really the reason to put those limits in place is because of performance. If you have 10 mesh units, and depending on how you architected that performance could be poorer than you want to be. So that is why we put the limit on there and limit you to 10 or 7, depending on product line.
Good deal. What is the easiest way to change a failed device without creating a new network?
Great question. We are going to have a feature called config backup. And the idea is just for that right there. So the idea is we're going to have the ability for us to back up your configs. If you have a lightning strike or something happens and you need to replace that unit, you're just going to simply put the new unit into that customer, ship it to their customer. When it comes online, it's going to download the configuration that it once had or the old unit had and come online, and magic will happen. So that I am expecting that will be out by June.
Awesome. Thank you. And we have a few more minutes here for a few more. Where do we get the URL for using TP-Link servers for updating firmware on client units?
So if you go to the network that you want to manage, that needs an upgrade, go to the network configuration, go to the system tab, and then hit the button that says check for upgrades. If there is an upgrade, you'll get 2 more icons. One icon will say cloud update, which you could do immediately right then, or URL. And what you can do is click on that, and it will bring up a new window, and you can click on that box, and it will create a profile in the profile tab with that URL. So you can now select that URL when you go do your task. I know it sounds a little cumbersome. We do have a document on this, but it is pretty simple. You just have to, create that profile by clicking on the network that needs to be upgraded. You do the, URL upgrade, and it will create the profile, go to a task, use that profile, and you'll use our servers going forward.
Thank you, Sean. Any plans for a Wi-Fi 6 unit with VoIP ports?
Not at this time. We are talking about maybe bringing a GPON ONT, an integrated GPON ONT with Wi-Fi 6 and voice. We have it. We're looking to see what the interest is. We have a couple of customers that have asked us, and if we get a couple more, I see us bringing that over.
Thank you. Let's see here. Is the virtual WAN setting issue being resolved other than setting the WAN type to none?
It is solved now. If you have the latest firmware, that no longer has to happen. We no longer change the MAC address. We have solved that.
Awesome. Thank you. Does the Deco X50 support the managed Wi-Fi features?
It does not. As a simple no, just because Deco is a snapshot protocol, hence why you saw on the price sheet that it was a lower cost. It only reports in when you are managing. So all it does is a heartbeat to tell us it's alive and online, but no data actually transfers between the device and the cloud unless you are actively managing that device.
Excellent. Let's see here. Is there a way with a zero touch to have an instant on-self install in an MDU?
Absolutely. And then the MDU feature is going to enhance that, where you can set what the defaults are. So even when the customer moves out, you can put them right back to where it was before they moved in.
Perfect. Here's a longer one. Can we get more consistency between models? Just things like LED colors, IP addresses, setup methods, etc.
I hope so. That's I would say that is one of my things I'm working on as well. I'm trying to get LEDs on the back panel. So I hear you guys. I've done this a long time. I am trying to get the consistency across the platforms. I think you're seeing it now, at least on the Wi-Fi 7 side. There were some differences definitely on the Wi-Fi 6 devices, but you're going to see us going forward a uniform, look and feel.
Good deal. I have two more questions for you. One of them, are there parental controls available for ISPs to help manage? Something
So
like
right
a content blocking.
Yeah, so right now it's kind of a built-in, I almost want to say parental control light. You're going to see us come out with the same home shield kind of platform that we have in the retail market. You're going to see that come into Aginet as well. And then the idea is try to set up kind of a revenue share, with you as the customer. So, and don't quote me on this, but, let's just you sell it for 10, we sell it to you for 5, and you make 5, we make 5. So that's kind of the idea, and that's part of that Linux container management. So you will be able to push, if you have a customer that says, I want parental controls, or they want higher security, you can push that container down to them and now charge them, a reoccurring rate. You make a little more money and we make a little bit more money.
Wonderful. Last question here. When can we buy the HB210 Pro at ISP Supplies? It's currently not listed online.
John, put a PO in. There's some coming in April.
Perfect. That's all the questions we have. Thank you. Zach, back to you.
Oh man, that mute button is hard to find when you're put on the spot like that, Jonathan. Anyway, folks, thank you so much for your time today, Sean. Just a wealth of knowledge on the product and technical side. Thank you so much. Folks, what we're going to do is compare notes on some of these questions. We did have some coming in through the chat, some in through Q&A. We are out of time, but if we missed any, what we're going to do is we're just going to compare notes between the questions and how Sean answered them with the transcript, merge them together with some beautiful AI tools. And if we missed any, we'll come back to you guys and make sure we answer them as part of our follow-up. Folks, we are going to list this session on YouTube as a recording. So if you need to go back and click through some of the answers, feel free to do so. I just want to say and close with thank you all very much for being ISP Supplies customers, supporting us and TP-Link here. Great partnership. And a last tip of the cap to Beck Stover, who's been managing our chat, replying back to folks. Beck on my team, Jonathan on my team. This has been a great session. And Sean, thank you so much for your time here. You guys have a great day.
Thank you.